The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our show here today. This is Bob Gilligan from the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and here we are today in the middle of July. The nice, hot summer weather is with us, and more importantly for us at the Catholic Conference, the legislature's adjourned. So we kind of get our lives back a little bit here, not traveling back and forth to Springfield as much as we have been in the past. Legislature adjourned on, I think it was May 31st, and since then we have been analyzing what's gone on in the past legislative session, and believe it or not, we're actually getting ready for next year, talking about what issues we need to get prepared for, et cetera. So today's program is going to take a look at some of those issues that we have been addressing. We're going to have at the end of the program two of our people at the Catholic Conference who I work with, Jeanette Malafa and Marilou Gervacio. In absence, we're going to have a glorified staff meeting, and we're going to review some of the issues that we worked on there. That's at the end of the program. The middle segment, we're going to take a different tact here a little bit, and we're going to talk to Christopher Massaro, I think his name is, and he's with a group called Biking for Babies, and they are making a trek through Illinois, raising some money for pregnancy care centers. We'll talk to Christopher here in the middle of the segment. But first, our segment is going to be something that the conference consistently works on. Our prison ministry department is who we're going to be talking to here in a couple seconds. And we're going to talk a little bit about a letter that the bishop sent to the governor and to members of an agency called Kafka, which is making recommendations on a prison that might open or close, actually two prisons that might open or close. But we're going to try to talk a little bit about the importance of the church's mission to reach out to those who are incarcerated and what happens with that department and its activities. So let's just, I guess without further ado, let's just dive right into our first guest, our first topic. Unfortunately, he's not with us on camera, but we will hear his voice. We're going to be talking to Deacon Dan Defino. He is a deacon in the Diocese of Joliet. Obviously, Joliet has a historical tie to prison ministry with the famous or infamous Stateville prison out there. And Deacon Dan is going to talk to us a little bit about the ministry of the prison ministry, the work of the prison ministry department out in not only Joliet, but throughout the entire state. Deacon Dan, are you with us?
I am.
Great. Hey, it's good to see you. We have your picture here on the screen, and as well as to hear your voice.
There you go.
Yeah. Good morning to you, or good afternoon, whatever it is. This is a tape show, so it's going to be on the 15th. Deacon Dan, tell us a little bit about. Now, you're a deacon in the Diocese of Joliet, as I said in the intro, but tell us a little bit about what you do out there at St. Isidore's and how it relates to the prison ministry department of the Catholic Conference.
Absolutely. So being a deacon in the Diocese of Joliet means that we have, several responsibilities. We have a responsibility to the church that we minister at, which for me is St. Isidore in Bloomingdale. We just have a new pastor that came in, a wonderful pastor that just left us, Jim Murphy, and a new pastor, Father John Bella, who actually was the vicar of priests for all of the diocese, is our new pastor who just started July 1st. But besides the responsibilities at the parish, as deacons, just by definition of the word diaconia, we are called to serve. And so we are to serve in whatever ministry we feel called to go out and minister to the flock. And so I felt called when I was in formation, which was started about 10 or 11 years ago. I've been a deacon now for just over coming up on 6 years. I was called to kind of jail ministry, and so jail and prison ministry, and so I started going to the DuPage County jail, which I'm speaking to you from right now, and started doing ministry there as far as doing Bible study and classes for those who are incarcerated. And so with doing that, it became very near and dear to my heart in meeting these people, and so I was called by the diocese to really expand that and try to help the diocese kind of infiltrate more into the institutions in at least our diocese and get people there to serve and go in and visit those that are incarcerated, bring them the love, the support that we know they need. And the big reason that I do this and continue to do it is And I tell the people that I come and visit here is that I get much more out of it than I think they do, because it's amazing seeing these men and women. They, yes, maybe have made a mistake, but we know that they are children of God. We know that God forgives all, and it's a very lonely place for these people, that you kind of see them at ground zero with everything taken away from them, that they really are children of God, real people, and are in need and deserved of forgiveness, and that's what we try to bring.
God bless you for doing that. It's I'm sure it's challenging work, but as you indicated, you probably get more out of it than you put into it, and you're putting a lot into it. So that's the experience with life, and I think prison ministry is one of those real challenging ministries, but the reward is just incredible to people like yourself and others. And in Illinois, we have not only yourself as the Diocese of Joliet representative to the Catholic Conference, but we have 5 other representatives from the various dioceses as well. And it's interesting that one of the reasons we wanted to do this segment today is there are public policy issues that overlap actually with your ministry. One of them going on right now is people watching this might be familiar with the talk of closures or consolidations of prisons in your diocese, one of them being Stateville, and the other one being in the Diocese of Peoria, where there's talk of consolidating or closing that state facility down there as well. And obviously there's public policy issues whenever you're opening or closing a large institution like that, a correctional facility, because, well, obviously there's jobs there, there's state jobs, they're impacted, and that has public policy ramifications for lawmakers. But one of the things that I'm really glad that the 6 bishops released a letter recently, and it was calling attention to some of the other issues that need to be addressed when there's either a consolidation or a closure that are probably not going to make the 10 o'clock news. They're probably not going to make a campaign, winning or losing side for a representative to take. Because there's many issues that go into what a lawmaker and the state has to decide where prisons are located or closed. But I want to talk a little bit about the letter that the bishops released, and it's calling attention to some of the other issues that are out there. And Deacon Dan, I don't know if you want to bring up some of those right now, you want me to go over those, but talk a little bit about some of the challenges that the church has identified whenever there's a closure or an opening of a prison.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go, and I don't have the letter in front of me, Bob, if you want to pull out some of those points on it, if you have anything in front of you, if you want to
Sure.
touch on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and so I think one of the bishops are trying to call attention to is just that a prison is an area, as you are experiencing and you're doing firsthand, one that is necessarily to try to rehabilitate the person who has been incarcerated. That's should be the primary goal of a correctional facility. Yes, there's a punishment factor there. You just talked about some of the punishment that people are experiencing is that they're alone, they're isolated, but also that a prison has to serve as a rehabilitative center so people can get their lives straight when they get out, because I don't know this percentages off the top of my head, but I know it's very high in terms of the number of people that actually will be released. And the other challenge out there, not only should a facility be a rehabilitated center, but also what kind of services are going to be eligible for people when they are released. I know right now the department talks a lot about reentry, and reentry being is when a person is released from a correctional facility, what do they go back to and how are they prepared to deal with some of those issues back when they're free again?
Right.
And I know that's a big challenge for the state, and it's something that the church, I think, is kind of uniquely positioned to provide in terms of the moral development of a prisoner, or trying to get them, I think you said that like they're stripped down to their bare soul, and that's what you're trying to do is build them back up so they can be productive members of society again.
Yes, absolutely. So, a number of things that were brought up in that letter that you touched upon right there. Obviously, one thing we talk about, and again, I'm a chaplain here at the DuPage County Correctional Facility, and the group that I work for is called JUST of DuPage. JUST stands for Justice, Understanding, Service, and Teaching. And so I brought to the diocese before that I think this is the model that we should be bringing throughout, really not only Illinois, but really could go throughout the country. And the Sheriff James Mendrick here from the DuPage County facility just went and did a conference in Oklahoma City to a number of sheriffs across the country who want to understand what's going on here. So when we look at those that are incarcerated, the problem is this. There is so much anxiety for the folks that are in a jail or in a prison, and the anxiety stems from, what am I going to do when I go out? Mm-hmm. If they have an addiction to alcohol or an addiction drug abuse, or they have anger management problems, or whatever their issues may be, we could take care of them in here, and we could minister to them, and we could get them into some classes, and we could work on them. What happens is the anxiety level starts going up when they know they're going back to the real world. And so I think with the bishops, and I don't want to speak for the bishops, but I think when they talk about kind of helping people and rehabilitation and helping them out, is to get them on a path that'll make them good citizens when they go back into society. And that's what we really should be worrying about. These are individuals that are going to pay their time, pay their dues, and when they get out, they need to be on a level playing field, and things need to be more fair for them. And the only way to do that is to give them the tools that they need. And so it's really about the way they're being taken care of at all these facilities. And if you look at Stateville, and it's, the facility they're talking about knocking it down because it is outdated and it has a lot of issues. Anybody that is incarcerated, their punishment should be that their freedom is taken away. That's it. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be that they can't eat decent food, that they can't drink decent water, that they can't have and worship in the faith that they worship in, whatever that may be, Catholic, Christian, Jewish, Islam, whatever it may be. That is our constitutional right, and that should be our right as human beings. And so when you take away their freedom, yeah, they are not able to go out into the world. They are locked down and locked into a facility. But otherwise, they should be treated as human beings.
Yeah, and I think
yes.
your ministry and ministry of many others helps do that, and we're blessed to have you. I think that letter is on our website, and perhaps we can call it up here as we're talking in the last couple seconds of minutes of our conversation here. I also want to talk about another issue in that letter. I think that's a constant, my understanding is a constant for ministers and people like yourself, is that sometimes it's difficult to get into the prisons for various reasons. And I know this has been a constant sort of frustration, and I know we hope we've achieved some headway in addressing that recently by our conversation with the Department of Corrections. But
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's got to be a little bit of a frustration for you and for other volunteers as they prepare to, as you said, it's quite a challenge to get into, to prepare yourself to encounter prisoners. And then if you can't get in or there's runarounds, that's also a frustration, I understand.
It is, and to be fair to the state and to be fair to those that are running these institutions, it is jail, it is prison, right? And so they need to not only be worried about the safety of those that are going in there, but they're worried about the safety of those that are here.
Yes.
And so, there are background checks and fingerprinting and making sure that those that come into these facilities are good. But when you have people that want to help, and they are good people, and they are equipped to minister, and they can't get in, it makes it difficult. And why is it difficult? Well, it's difficult because it's a state institution. It's not run like some small business that you could get to the leader right away and do some things you want to do. You have to go through the channels. And so there has been a lot of frustration in getting into these places. Marilou, who you spoke of earlier in the broadcast here, saying, as one of the people on staff with you, did a great job at getting us in front of the IDOC just a couple of weeks ago in Springfield, and we had a wonderful conversation there. And they were very forthcoming and very helpful, and we've put a small plan together that I'm actually going to bring up this afternoon at a meeting at the diocese on how to expand our ministry into these institutions. And they have basically vowed that they will come out and get a number of priests, deacons, and possibly some lay people that are in the different areas, the deaneries of these different institutions, get us all vetted out, fingerprinted, approved to do whatever, and then step in to get to the head chaplains or wardens or sheriffs of these institutions to say, these people are coming in. because that's how it has to be. And so that was really great news, and that's a way to cut through a lot of red tape quickly for us, and so it's very, very encouraging.
Let's hope so. And finally, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, Deacon Dan, I know one of the other issues that the bishops brought up in their letter about the relocation or the consolidation of Logan Correctional Facility in Stateville was the importance of having families access to visit those family members who are incarcerated. Do you find that to be a key ingredient in rehabilitation or hope for somebody who's incarcerated, contact with immediate family?
You know, they say that people that are in one of these institutions doing time, the family's doing time on the outside.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Right.
So they're struggling as much as the people are in here. Again, going back to my last statement about what prison and jail should be about, is the removal of freedom, right? You are not free to go do what you want. You are incarcerated. You're in this institution for whatever crime you are accused of or you have been convicted of. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to see your family. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to see your children. And talk about a lot of the people that are incarcerated and where they're coming from and the neighborhoods and their race. And you know, we have the stats of the ethnicities and all this, and we know what the stats point to. And so, you know, if you take a father out of a family in the inner city or somewhere that is, you know, a little more impoverished or is a lot of gang-related issues and things like that, you take that father away or that mother away, what do you think is going to happen to those children? And so, you know, we are not breaking the chain of the issues that lead to incarceration. And why? Because people look at incarceration and say, these people did wrong, throw them away, and, you know, lock them up and throw away the key. And it can't be like that. We have to work on those issues. We have to work on the core issues of all these individuals that are in here and give them whatever we can to get them out in family and them seeing family and them working on their family or talking with their family is a major thing. And some of those families, you know, are not only have they been disrupted, but they've been maybe slightly dysfunctional. And that's what has led to these people being incarcerated. And so to be able to say, let's reach out to your family, let's get your family in here, let's have some of these conversations that reconcile you, because when they could get more whole, even being in here, that's their best shot for being more whole when they get back out.
That's great, and you're exactly right. As we said earlier, most of them are getting out, so society's going to have to deal with that issue regardless. Right. So the more we can do to help individuals while they're incarcerated prepare for getting out, the better all of us will be for society, and so they'll be able to deal with the pressures that they're going to experience. Deacon Dan Defino, thank you so much for joining us. And, you know, we should add to our prayers those who are incarcerated. And as you indicated, you know, their families are in some ways incarcerated as well. We should add to them their families as well. Thank you so much for your doing it. Thank you for taking some time today. And God bless you and your work.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Bob. God bless you and your listeners. Thank you.
Great. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois. Don't go away. We're going to switch gears here in just a second. We're going to talk to Christopher Massaro. He's with a group called Biking for Babies. And right now they're biking through Illinois. And we're going to hear about what he's trying to do to raise awareness and funds for pregnancy care centers. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
People always say, how can you spend your day with 3-year-olds? Seeing the changes that they go through and just the journey and how they grow, this is a very rewarding job. Even though at the end of the day, we're not the highest paid people on earth. And when I have a parent contact me and say, my child loves school, that to me, I'm setting that foundation for their love of learning, because really you are changing lives, you are molding lives.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
I am a seminarian.
The church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Catholic Charities' Loss program was created more than 40 years ago to help survivors of suicide wherever they are in the grieving process. This nationally recognized program continues to offer a safe, non-judgmental environment where survivors of suicide can find community, direction, and resources for healing after suffering the devastating loss of a loved one. Online and in-person services are available for individuals, couples, children, and families of all faith traditions. To learn more, call 312-655-7283 or email loss@catholiccharities.net. Don't suffer alone. We are here to offer loving outreach to survivors of suicide. Contact Catholic Charities today.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thank you for watching and listening to the show here today. That's going to be airing on July 15th, right in the middle of the summer. As I mentioned at the outset of the program, we're having talk a little bit about some different issues today. At the conclusion of the program, we're going to do our wind-up show with some members of the Catholic Conference. But right now, we want to take a little bit of a diversion here and talk to a gentleman. His name is Christopher Massaro. He is with a group called Biking for Babies, and what they are doing, and I'll let Christopher explain a little bit more, but they are having a number of volunteers, individuals, bike through the state of Illinois, I believe it is, and they're raising awareness and money about pregnancy care centers. In this program, we mostly talk about public policy issues affecting pregnancy care centers. You may remember last year, there was an issue the Catholic Conference was involved with, was opposing legislation to that would have allowed deceptive practices engaged by pregnancy care centers to be litigated by the Attorney General of Illinois. The bill wound up passing, and fortunately, they don't engage in deceptive practices, and a court agreed with that decision and threw it out. So pregnancy care centers, at least for the time being, are able to operate free according to their First Amendment rights. But today we want to talk a little bit about pregnancy care centers and the great work they do, and with this organization called Biking for Babies. Christopher, are you with us? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much for doing this. And I understand you're biking or got off a bike as we speak. So tell us a little bit about Biking for Babies and what you all are doing out there on the roads of Illinois.
Yeah, so I mean, it's no secret the culture of death is all around us, right? We also, young adults specifically need creative ways to really engage the gospel of life and the pro-life message, and then to live it out. And as you've mentioned, with pregnancy resource centers, moms who are facing unplanned pregnancies really need emotional and financial support. So what we do is we give young adults specifically an opportunity to put their pro-life beliefs into action, to encounter Jesus Christ, become more authentic disciples of Him, and then to live the gospel of life joyfully and sacrificially as they raise money and awareness for moms facing unplanned pregnancies, largely through the pregnancy centers and maternity homes that are all around the country caring for them. Biking is really a component of what we do, and it's an adventurous hook that helps to bring young people into the mission. So that the explicit way that biking is incorporated is actually this week that we're in right now. We call the National Ride Week. So all of our young adults, we have close to 90 of them around the country. They're in teams of about 9 or 10 each, and they're biking individualized, like 600-mile routes across different sections of the country. So you mentioned that there's a team or some young adults that are in Illinois right now, and there's actually going to be 3 different teams that pass through the state of Illinois, and then there are 6 other teams in other parts of the country, all going at the same time this week, riding, trying to raise awareness for pregnancy centers, tell people stories about the lives of the moms that have been helped by pregnancy centers, and then raise money along the way. And then it's also really like a conversion opportunity for these young men and women. It's a challenge. They're doing something to glorify God, to help others, and it's all charity for them. They're doing this in a volunteer way. So it really brings a lot out of them, causes them to really push beyond their own limits and re-examine what they mean when they say they believe in the pro-life message. And then it challenges them to live it in a unique, concrete way. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So 600 miles is not like riding around your neighborhood. I mean, you're really biking. This is for people that really like to bike.
Exactly. Well, it's funny that you say that, though. Yeah, it's true. It's not like riding around your neighborhood.
Right.
It's a lot more grueling than that, especially in the summer. It's July, right, and it's hot. I mean, I'm sitting in a car right now in Pennsylvania on my way to meet up with one of the teams that's riding from New York, and there's an excessive heat advisory for this area of the country right now. And so there's, these teams are out there doing that. So it's hard. It's grueling. They've trained for months leading up to this. But it's also interesting you say it's got to be for people who really like to bike. And the unique thing is there's a lot of people, a lot of young adults that sign up for this, not because they like to bike, but because they want to live their pro-life beliefs.
Yeah.
And this gives them a unique way to do it. And so they actually, many of them find a bike for the very first time in March or April of the very year that they're doing this, and they start to bike beyond what they did when they were little kids. Now they're actually trying to learn how to do it and train to do this. So it's new for a lot of people, and that's what challenges them so much, but it really is what also produces a lot of growth and transformation.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure there's got to be a bit of a spiritual component too out there on the road. I take it it's for any faith denomination. It sounds to me like you're focused on pregnancy care centers, and so I'm just wondering if is it any religious denomination welcome?
Yeah, any denomination's welcome as long as they're going to be willing to live the pro-life message in a Christian way.
Sure.
So we are very, very clear about proclaiming our faith in Jesus Christ. It's Catholic at heart in a lot of ways. It was founded by Catholics, actually.
Yeah.
2 students who were at the University of Illinois when they founded it, and they were Catholic students there. And it's been passed on in a lot of ways through Catholics, and it has a very Catholic spirituality. John Paul II is really the inspiration behind the founding of this organization. And, the spiritual dimension really is, there's a quote actually from him where he says that prayer joined to sacrifice constitutes the greatest force in human history. And that's really lived out in this mission. So it's not only this physical offering, the months of training, this week-long ride, the time and the energy that all these young adults put into raising money and awareness for the pregnancy centers, but they do it all prayerfully. So it's this combination of prayer and sacrifice, really what our Lord asks of us when he tells us to pick up the cross and follow him, right? And that's what he did on the cross. He joined prayer to his sacrifice. So that's what we do too.
Prayer and sacrifice, you're absolutely right. That's a great quote by John Paul II. And I know you're in a car avoiding excessive heat right now, but on the screen you can see that there's your website is coming up, and you can see some of the photos of the individuals riding and some of the posters and things like that. Tell us a little bit. I don't want to forget this point, so I want to bring it up now. So if somebody's interested in this year's probably too late, you're probably looking at next year, I would imagine. So tell us how people get involved with Biking for Babies.
Sure. Yeah, well, the easiest way to start is by going to bikingforbabies.com, our website, or anyone can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, so we've got all kinds of social media out there. And there are plenty of ways to put your information in. So even on our website, there is a page explicitly geared towards young adults who are interested in volunteering in this mission. And there's a little tab they can select for inputting their information and expressing their interests, so that we can then follow up with them. So that's sort of the primary way, I guess, for any young adults out there listening, or anybody who knows a young adult, who's in there between ages 18 and 39. You can send them that way, and they can sign up like that. That's really the primary way. And you're right, we're in the middle of things right now, so we're not looking for folks to jump in at this very moment, although there are other tangential ways that people can volunteer with us. So there's really an interest, anybody can reach out and we'll figure out a way to incorporate them. But for the main volunteer missionary aspect of this, that always starts in March and it goes until the end of September.
Yep.
So we accept applications basically throughout the fall and winter for the upcoming season, missionary season.
It's a great idea. And tell us, pregnancy care centers are your focus, and I am very familiar with pregnancy care centers. I was on the board of directors of one for years here in Chicago, Chicagoland. Actually, they're now all over the state. Aid for Women just opened up a center in Carbondale, in Rockford, and there's 5 facilities we have up this way. It's a fantastic organization, so I'm very familiar with some of the good work they do. And I think that's a great avenue for somebody that's concerned about pro-life, not even so pro-life, but just for the care of women and children, and how to, an alternative to abortion is so, I think their message is so effective. No one can argue with it, and I can see why young people and anybody would be attracted to doing something to help pregnancy care centers. Tell us a little bit about where you are, and I think you said there is an Illinois component going on right now, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And where are they now?
I wish I knew the exact answer to that question. There are 3 teams that will be going through the state of Illinois.
Okay.
One's coming down from Michigan, one's coming down from Wisconsin, and one's coming across from Indiana. So they're somewhere in the midst of Illinois at this moment. Yeah.
And you're in Pennsylvania. You're coming from New York, and so it sounds like this is pretty much all over the country then.
Yeah, it is pretty much in the sense that young adults and pregnancy centers can be a part of this mission from anywhere in the country, and actually internet. We have a girl who's signed up from Canada. We had a girl from Northern Ireland last year. So it's not just limited to here. The pregnancy centers that we support currently are all limited to the country, but they're in like 30-some states. So they're all over the place. California, Washington, doesn't matter where they come from, they can be a part of it. The rides themselves are more limited in the sense we've only built them in certain places. We have 9 different routes this year. 6 of them are in the Midwest, all ending in St. Louis, Missouri, and then 3 are in the East Coast, all ending in Arlington, Virginia. But yeah, like I said, the pregnancy centers are from all over the place. We have, I think there are 11 this year in the state of Illinois that we'll be supporting, and there have been many of them since, we've been around for 15 years, 2009 is when we started, so there have been many of them in Illinois since we began, including the very founding of Biking for Babies happened in Illinois, and that first year it supported a pregnancy center. I think it was called Living Alternatives. I think you just mentioned that in Illinois itself. So yeah, there's 8 young adults from Illinois this year, 11 pregnancy centers. We've given over $200,000 in the years that we've gone in Illinois itself, but almost over. Hopefully this year we will have reached the $2 million mark given since we started 15 years ago. And you nailed it. Like, people who want to live their pro-life beliefs often struggle to find a way to do it, and I think pregnancy centers are a beautiful way to do it, whether by volunteering or working for them or just learning about them and then being able to speak to them, speak about them and share them with other people, because the reality, and you probably know this very well, the reality is that the overwhelming majority of people in our country have no idea that these places exist. I know. And even worse than just people in general, the women, the mothers who really would benefit from their services have no idea that they exist. So the goal to share their stories and get their awareness up in society is crucial.
And just 2 comments. Number 1, the Midwest is a lot flatter, so I'm sure it's a lot easier to bike here than it is in Arlington, Virginia. I've been to Arlington. I'm from the East Coast originally, so I know the Midwest is very flat, so it's a lot easier biking here, I would imagine. And secondly, I'm sure you have a lot good stories coming from this. And pregnancy care centers have so many good stories that they can point to of women who were in a bad spot and didn't know what to do, and sometimes they just stumble across a pregnancy care center. They've given birth, and now they have this wonderful child that they're helping raise, and the pregnancy care center step forward and help provide resources for those young moms. And you see so many great stories coming out of pregnancy care centers. Well, we got a couple minutes left. I'm sure you talked to many of these pregnancy care centers. Any good stories coming out of them from the bikers or from the pregnancy care centers that you're involved with?
Yeah, I mean, the clearest thing that I can always point out to is just like the impact that visiting a pregnancy center has on a person who just generally has an idea that they may exist but doesn't know anything more, because you get to see it firsthand. And that's just for somebody who doesn't need directly their services. But yeah, there's stories abound for pregnancy centers and for maternity homes too, places that allow moms to live there for an extended period of time. There's a really beautiful one just outside of Arlington, Virginia. It's a little south of that, called Mary's Shelter, which I really love what they do. And they have women that come really who are homeless in many ways, right? They just need a place to live. And some of them already have living children. And this maternity home allows the mom and any children living already to come and live with them for 3 years. And it's not just live there, but it's a program that's designed to actually help this mom become responsible for her own life, right? And then so there's women that have gone from homeless to being nurses, or owning their own realty company, or owning their own businesses, who have gone through Mary's Shelter and many other places like it. So yeah, it's really just a matter of learning the stories and then sharing it with other people, and it really goes a long way, because people just don't know. They just don't know.
Exactly. Aid for Women in Chicago has a very similar setup that you just described. Women can come and stay. There's actually 2 maternity homes. One is in Des Plaines, which is in the suburbs. It's kind of more of a suburban campus where people can come, and they're more, I don't want to say isolated per se, but it's more serene. It's in a large campus, and they can stay there for up to 2 years. And as you indicated, they can have children and stay there with their children. And then there's another one that's on the northwest side of the city that's more accessible for like bus routes and transportation and things like that for moms that have to get to work or want to do that sort of thing. And as you indicated, they have an excellent called Earn to Learn program, where they teach finance skills and those sort of skills that some moms need to help them get them back on their feet. So they do wonderful stuff, and like I said, they're all throughout the state. So I'm very familiar, and I can't sing their praises highly enough. So tell us. So it looks like this summer's pretty much wrapping up. You have some rides going on, and then when do they conclude? I would imagine fairly soon.
Yeah, so the rides themselves end this Saturday. We have ending events for all 9 of the teams. We have 2 ending events. They're each we call them currently the Celebration of Life. So one of those is in St. Louis, Missouri. 6 of the teams will all end there on Saturday, the same day, have a big celebration. And then 3 of the teams will end in Arlington on Saturday, Arlington, Virginia, that is, with another celebration there. But the commitment for the young adults themselves runs until the end of September. So while the rides will be finished and the riding portion of what they do will be finished, there's a couple things that we do to wrap up over the next couple months, where they continue to engage the pregnancy centers that they've all been partnered with.
Oh, great.
And they'll keep sharing their experience with people. They'll continue their fundraising. And there's some more missionary type of kind of resources and prayerful exercises, spiritual type exercises that we sort of try to facilitate for these young adults, so that they can take what they've experienced and then turn it outwards and continue to live the conversion that they've undergone going forward, whether it's for pregnancy centers or in other ways as well. So that's kind of where we are in the year at this point. And then we typically make our finance, because we raise money for the pregnancy centers, right? So we make those contributions in November is generally when that happens.
Great. Prayer and sacrifice. I think you're onto something there. Christopher, thanks so much for joining us. I don't make your age cut, unfortunately. I think my biking days are probably over. I used to run, but I think I don't make the 39-year-old cutoff anymore. Just not quite. But it's a really, I wish I'd known about this when I was younger. This is something crazy enough that I probably would have done it.
That's awesome. Well, share it with
I will.
other people.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of off my head if I know any people that are really into biking, but I'll have to think about that. But we'll share this interview, and hopefully we'll pick up some volunteers and some supporters for next year. Christopher, thanks so much. Biking for Babies. Go on the website. You can Google Biking for Babies to find out more information, as Christopher indicated. And Christopher, best of luck to you. I think you guys are doing great stuff, and I really wish the best for you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us on the show.
Great. Take care. That's Christopher Massaro. He's with Biking for Babies. Don't go away. We're right back. We're going to talk about session-ending issues, things that we worked on, things that we were successful with, things that we were less than successful with. Coming up, we're going to be joined by my two colleagues that work with me at the Catholic Conference, Marilou Gervacio and Jeanette Malafa. And so don't go away. We're right back.
I can't imagine myself going into any other school.
Our school fosters growth by being a backbone to our family.
My kids are incredibly well-rounded. I see a lot of kindness in them on a daily basis.
One of the things I think Catholic schools do well is personalize the learning experience. You can hear joy in the classrooms.
I feel that I'm happy that I am in this kind of school.
Our school communities provide students with academic excellence and character education in a supportive and stable learning environment. Come see for yourself. Visit archchicago.org/findaschool.
Did you know that Catholic Charities accepts car donations? If you're ready to free up space in your garage and put a stop to all those expenses that go along with owning a car, we will gratefully accept your donation, whether the car is running or not. You choose a pickup time that is convenient for you, and we will make the donation as easy as possible, free of charge. You'll receive a charitable donation receipt as well. We accept all types of vehicles nationwide, and you will know that your donation is made to Catholic Charities, an agency you can trust. To learn more about donating your car, call 877-786-4483. That's 877-786-4483. Thank you.
The Cemetery Ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thanks for joining us here at our last segment of our program that I've been building up for the last 45 minutes. So what we're going to do now here is have a glorified staff meeting. We are in the process of issuing our session-ending reports about what happened during the legislative session that just concluded on May 31st. And so with us to talk about some of those issues, instead of having me go over every one of them, we're going to have my two colleagues, Jeanette Malafa and Marilou Gervacio, who are now, I'm supposed to turn to the other camera. Hi, no, they didn't tell me this. We'll talk a little bit about some of the issues that we were dealing with this past session. Marilou, Jeanette, welcome to our program. I don't have to do the intros for you guys as much. We've been talking about this. So tell us a little bit about some of the issues that we were successful and not so successful with. Maybe, Marilou, just start with you. Any comments about, we talked in the first segment with Deacon Dan about the prison ministry, and I know there's some other issues that you've been working with on the on various tax credits, it looks like, to to help alleviate poverty or to help conditions of people who are low income. Tell us a little bit about, I think we went 1 for 2 on those. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
Sure. In terms of some things related to prison ministry, there was a item in the budget that was included for pretrial success grants, and this is something related to the effort that was in the last couple of years. I can't remember exactly when it passed, when cash bail ended. So this is a program where grants will go to community organizations to provide certain services to people that are awaiting trial. So now that there's no cash bail, a lot of people are being sent home to await their court date. So if they have certain issues, if there's some mental health issues, substance abuse issues, those sort of things that we can help them with while they are awaiting trial, some of those things may have led to why they are having to go to court. These grants will go to community organizations to help those people receive services to address some of those issues, with the hope that that will help them both obviously in their lives before they go back to court and after they get the resolution of whatever resolution to their cases. So it's an effort to try and give some support to people who are facing these criminal justice issues.
And,
so that was in the.
And I know there was the governor was highly touting his tax credit for child care for child expenses. That passed as well.
Yes, yeah. So there also in the budget there was included, I think it's $50 million for a tax credit that will go to families who have children 12 years of age or under. I believe the tax credit will be up to $300 per child, and it will be based on families who receive the earned income tax credit at the state level. So I think the amount may vary based on what they receive, but I think it's up to $300 per child.
There's
and
many.
That's really important for families.
There's a lot of these issues that we take positions on these bills, and we're going to put out a session-ending report that'll be on our website at some point. But these are kind of the major issues that we were dealing with at the time. Jeanette, speaking of tax credits, in the category of things that didn't go particularly well, obviously the legislature failed to renew the scholarship tax credit. Very disappointing. I'm not sure what more can be said about that at this stage. I suppose there's always hope. Hope springs eternal, that at some point in time this can come back, but they failed to do it.
Correct. Right. And we even rebranded the program.
Right.
And changed up some of the eligibility, some of the donation, the way you can designate donations. We did protect the current kids in the program. But yeah, there were some members that were very supportive, but there were more that were not.
Yeah, unfortunately, we'll live for another day or see what happens with that. In any other education, that was probably the issue that dwarfed just about everything this year, right? There was some legislation we worked on that we helped fix that made things okay for us. But I think the other major topic was probably some of the life issues that we dealt with. There seemed to be a lot of those. They weren't like really, followed by the media much. It wasn't like a real hot topic per se, but there was a couple bills out there that we had spent a lot of time on.
Correctly, you're right. There was a lot of little bills.
Yeah.
Right. So like insurance bills. So now women in Illinois can get pregnancy tests at home, pregnancy tests 2 each month covered under insurance. That's good. Women that have had miscarriages or stillbirth, they can get any mental, emotional, or nervous disorder coverage they need through their insurance. That's wonderful as well. There was another bill that we wanted to support, if you remember, Bob.
I do.
That covered pregnancy and postpartum services for doulas and midwives, and breast pump supplies, and lactation consultant visits. But it did contain that little word abortion that we didn't like, so we had to regretfully oppose that bill. But everything else in it was great.
That's the one we were telling the bill sponsors. They got a 95%. They did really good. There's one problem. That 5% is really hurting us. Yeah, it was very frustrating not being able to jump on board that.
So there were little bills like that everywhere.
Yep.
I think the big issue that is the biggest win for us is that assisted suicide did not move this session. So the win is that the bill did not move.
Correct.
we
Good
know
point.
that it's going to come back to haunt us, but very soon. But that sometimes a win is not passing something, but killing something.
Right. Killing assisted suicide. There's a meta pun in there somewhere, right? Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I actually didn't even think of bringing that up. That was a real big concern of ours at the beginning of the year. And I think the other thing is, nationally, they played in a lot of states. Compassionate Choices, the advocacy group that's for this, and they pushed in a lot of major states. And we thought none were going to pass. Unfortunately, just within the last 2 or 3 weeks, it looks like Delaware slipped and they wound up passing it. It was a last second thing and they got one of the votes they needed. But I don't know. I don't recall the governor. I don't know if the governor is going to sign that or not. We can wait to see how that goes. But overall, nationally, on that issue, we fared very well. I'm very concerned. I know you guys are too about what's going to happen in the fall and in the lame duck session and next year. But we're going to be we'll be addressing that next year. But you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. Assisted suicide did not pass.
I think the only there's a couple bills that that you might even want to talk about more than me, but the Hospital Emergency Services Act was amended,
right? And
now it says that abortion as a stabilizing treatment is something that emergency room physicians have to do, and there are some. We're not really sure, I believe, legally, if EMTALA, the federal law, needs to be clarified here. Does this affect the Healthcare Right of Conscience Act in Illinois?
Right.
We're still kind of waiting to see what happens with that act.
Yeah, right, it's House Bill 581, I think it was, and you're right. I mean, that's the one that came out, very late in the session. We had heard this rumor for months about there being some bill that would violate the Illinois Healthcare Right of Conscience Act. And then when it came out, we weren't 100% certain. There's some language in there that really makes it questionable as to what the final effect will be. Does it violate the Conscience Act? Does it not? Some people think it does. Some people think it does not. We'll be looking at that over the summer, like you said. And then there's that other section in there that was driven by the Supreme Court decision. At the time, we didn't know what it was going to be on EMTALA, the Emergency Medical Treatment Act, that has provisions that protect what services are done or not done in an emergency situation in a hospital setting. And they changed some of the laws with regard to that. So we'll be looking at that one. I have a feeling we're going to be coming back and revisiting that at some point in the future. But yeah, that was something that popped out of the sky at the last minute, that House Bill 581. And then, Jeanette, there was that other issue we were dealing with all session long about the one on the adding reproductive health decisions to the Human Rights Act. And that's another one that we will see what happens in terms of litigation. We know that there's some talk there about groups maybe filing suit against the state because they added reproductive health decisions to the Illinois Human Rights Act. And what that exactly means is a little unclear at this point in time. But I know it did cause concern for the representatives, the attorneys in the various dioceses about what are the ramifications of putting that in, as the Illinois Human Rights Act right now protects for race, gender, class. Now we're for reproductive health decisions. We've seen this bill in other states. Some have litigated it, some have not. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that one too.
It's Bill 4867, Representative Moeller's bill.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time, energy, and effort on that, along with the Alliance Defending Freedom, who was very involved with that, very concerned. And I know they've been expressed an interest in lawsuits, and so is Thomas More here in Chicago as well. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. But overall, I mean, I think it was a decent session. I mean, the inability to continue the scholarship tax credit creates a real dark kind of perspective on last session, because we put so much into that, as did other groups as well. And as you indicated, it just didn't happen. So talk about, going forward, this legislature is pretty much done, right? I mean, we don't have a whole lot left but we do.
Right. We just have to wait and see what the governor vetoes or doesn't veto, which we will then deal with for the 2 weeks after the election in November during veto session, which everyone thinks is going to be hopefully quiet.
Yeah.
And then a lame duck session right before the new General Assembly will start in January.
Yeah, there's so much up in the air right now that will impact this. I mean, we have a lot going on right now with the Democratic nominee. Who's it going to be? Who's it not going to be? Is the president going to make it? Is he not going to make it? If he does, what does that mean? If he doesn't, what does that mean? How do the Republicans counter that? So there's a lot of macro energy going in at a very high level here that needs to play out before we'll really know much how it's going to be handled at the local level in Springfield. And for that matter, even what's going on here in the city of Chicago.
Correct. I mean, you have a national convention coming up soon.
Yeah, and who's their nominee going to be and how does that play out? So I got a feeling the veto session is scheduled for 2 weeks in November. It's right after the general election, right? So that chances are we'll still be kind of figuring out what the ramifications of that are. But all of us that play this in the sandbox are looking at the lame duck session. That's where I think things are going to be dicey.
Rumor has it.
Yes. And the lame duck session will be right before the new members are sworn in. And we don't even know who those new members are going to be. So, if the Republicans have a good day, when is election day? November 5th? I don't even know. November 5th? The first Tuesday in November, I know that. So do they have a good day? That will have an impact on what they do in lame duck. And if the Democrats have a good day, that will have as well. And so we'll pick it up from there, because right now a lot of this stuff is not known, which I think is going to be the one that we're watching most for in the lame duck would be assisted suicide. Yep. So we'll see. I don't know what the future holds, but overall, it's like I said, the scholarship tax credit was definitely the main issue for this year. I don't anticipate that being an issue for next legislative session. I would anticipate we'll probably be doing some other things that will not be as highly publicized as that. But the ramifications of losing that are still going to be with us. And how that plays out in the future will determine. And Marilou, I think the other issue that I would imagine we'll see more attention to, especially in the backdrop of what happened this last weekend with the number of, I think it was 19 individuals were slain in the streets of Chicago, and I think there's 100 people shot. I don't think that issue's, you're going to see more attention to guns and the causes of that type of violence, but specifically what they're going to try to do in Illinois, it's somewhat limited by the Constitution. And right now, they took that big step 2 years ago on firearms regulations, and I don't know what else they could wind up doing at this stage. I don't know if you have any insights or suggestions there, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that topic.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I believe the mayor of Chicago had, in a way, called out the state to try and address the issue of guns. And as you said, Bob, it is a bit limited. Even passing the ban on assault weapon was very contentious, and it's still, there's still questions about it. I believe it, it's still being considered what the future of that is. So moving forward, yeah, it's kind of up in the air how much the state can and is willing to do at this point. But there does need to be something done about the violence that's going on.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot. I mean, the Supreme Court even looked at taking that case, and they didn't. But they didn't say they were never. I think they kind of sent a signal that they most likely would. Okay, well, outside of Kelsey Chisholm, we're one person short of a staff meeting here, but we'll include her next time. We'll get her in on the next time, get a part of the action to spice this up. Thanks so much for taking some time this morning, kind of go over some of the major issues that we dealt with this past legislative session, wrapping up kind of the year, and now we'll be looking forward to, I think, more issues, more shows on future issues coming up. Thanks, Marilou. Thanks, Jeanette. And let's just conclude the show today by thanking everybody for participating. Christopher Massaro, who came in from Biking for Babies, and Deacon Dan from the Diocese of Joliet, coming in to talk a little bit about what he does with prison ministry. This is Bob Gilligan. Thanks so much for listening and for watching today. We'll be back on the third Monday in the month of August. Summer is going strong, though. It'll still be going strong in August. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great day.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.